In the vast, sprawling tapestry of ancient Egyptian history, certain reigns shine with an unparalleled brilliance, periods of immense wealth, stability, and cultural achievement. Among these golden ages, the long reign of one pharaoh stands out as perhaps the most magnificent of all. We speak of Amenhotep III, the ninth ruler of the illustrious 18th dynasty, whose time on the throne, spanning nearly 4 decades in the 14th century BCE, was an era of unprecedented peace and prosperity. It was a time when Egypt's coffers overflowed with gold from the mines of Nubia, and its diplomatic reach extended across the entire Near East, from the shores of the Aegean to the plains of Mesopotamia. To understand Amenhotep III is to understand Egypt at the very peak of its imperial grandeur. He was not a warrior king in the mold of his predecessors, who had forged an empire through conquest. Instead, he was a master diplomat, a prolific builder, and a divine figure of immense stature. His reign was less about expanding borders and more about consolidating power and celebrating the glory of the gods and the pharaoh himself. He presided over a court of unparalleled opulence and sophistication, where art and architecture reached new heights of refinement. Indeed, his era was so dazzling that he has often been compared to the great Sun King of France, Louis XIV, a ruler who also defined his age through cultural splendor rather than military might. This documentary will journey back in time over 3,000 years to explore the life and legacy of this extraordinary ruler. We will peel back the layers of history to uncover the man behind the golden mask of divinity. We will examine his family and his early years, tracing the lineage that placed him on the most powerful throne in the ancient world. We will follow the course of his long and eventful reign, exploring how he maintained stability at home while conducting a masterful foreign policy abroad. His story is not one of dramatic battles, but of subtle statecraft, religious devotion, and an artistic revolution that would shape the course of Egyptian culture for generations to come. Our exploration will be comprehensive, seeking to build a complete picture of his world. We will delve into the complex religious landscape of his time, examining his relationship with the powerful priesthood of Amun-Ra and the subtle rise of a new solar deity, the Aten. We will witness the spectacle of his grand Sed festivals, ancient jubilee rituals that reaffirmed his divine kingship, and through the famous Amarna Letters see how he corresponded with other great kings as an equal. Finally, we will consider his final years, his succession, and the breathtaking monuments he left behind, which continue to inspire awe to this day, securing his legacy as Amenhotep the Magnificent. Amenhotep III ascended to the throne at a moment when the hard labor of empire building had already been done, the wealth of Egypt secure and its horizons bright with promise. His great-grandfather, Thutmose III, had carved Egyptian dominance from Nubia in the south to the Euphrates in the north, and the generations that followed consolidated those gains into a vast, wealthy sphere of influence. When Amenhotep became pharaoh as a young boy, he inherited not turmoil, but peace, allowing his gaze to turn away from the battlefield toward the cultural and religious life of his nation. He was the fortunate heir to a fortune built by others, and he would spend it with magnificent effect, unleashing a staggering explosion of artistic and architectural creation. More surviving statues are attributed to him than to any other pharaoh. He commissioned hundreds of temples, chapels, and monuments across the land, from the delta in the north to the distant reaches of Nubia. His grandest projects rose in Thebes, the religious capital. He expanded mighty Karnak and raised a new Luxor temple, proclaiming the divine birth of the king. On the West Bank, he constructed a mortuary temple, the largest and most lavish religious complex of its day, a creation whose scale was said to dwarf even Karnak. This efflorescence of the arts was not mere aggrandizement. It was sophisticated statecraft, every statue and every relief projecting the pharaoh as a living god upon the earth. Amenhotep cultivated a theology that elevated the king to divine status. He was not merely an intermediary between gods and mortals, but was depicted as a deity alongside Egypt's greatest gods. That deification reinforced his absolute authority and cosmic centrality, with serene, idealized art serving as the chosen vehicle for the message. Why does Amenhotep III matter to our understanding of ancient Egypt? His reign marks a critical turning point, the high watermark of traditional power and culture. It was a seemingly perfect moment of balance and prosperity, even as, within that golden age, the first seeds of revolution were being sown. Subtle theological innovations, most notably the growing prominence of the solar disk, the Aten, began to glimmer within the court's ideology. These currents would be seized upon by his son and successor, Akhenaten, who would unleash a religious schism that tore at the kingdom's foundations. To understand Akhenaten's radicalism, we must first appreciate the magnificent sun-drenched world of his father, Amenhotep III. To understand the golden peace of Amenhotep III's reign, we must first look to the fiery conquests of his ancestors. He was born into the 18th dynasty, a line of warrior pharaohs who forged Egypt's new kingdom from the ashes of foreign domination. His lineage was a roll call of legendary rulers who expelled the Hyksos and pushed Egypt's frontiers further than ever before, establishing a military culture and an administrative machine that was ruthlessly efficient. Power, wealth, and divine mandate were the cornerstones of their rule, passed down through a bloodline that saw itself as chosen by the gods to lead Egypt to glory and to maintain cosmic order, Ma'at, throughout the world. Amenhotep III stood in direct descent from these imperialists. His great-grandfather was the formidable Thutmose III, often called the Napoleon of Egypt. Thutmose III conducted numerous campaigns into the Near East, securing vast territories and establishing a network of vassal states that buttressed Egyptian dominance. His grandfather, Amenhotep II, was likewise a famed warrior, renowned for athletic prowess, and he continued Egypt's military ascendancy. Amenhotep's father, Thutmose IV, though his reign was relatively short, marked a subtle but important shift in policy. He is best known for the dream stele placed between the paws of the Great Sphinx at Giza, the tale of a young prince who slept in the Sphinx's shadow, to whom the deity appeared in a dream, promising him the throne of Egypt if he would clear away the sands that had buried its body for centuries. A story that highlights a move towards divine prophecy and religious acts, rather than mere military might, to legitimize kingship. A theme his son would expand upon magnificently. Thutmose IV's reign also saw an increased focus on diplomacy, particularly with the rising kingdom of Mitanni in the Near East. After generations of conflict, he negotiated a peace treaty and cemented the alliance by marrying a Mitannian princess, an inspired act of statecraft that ended a long-standing rivalry and transformed a powerful enemy into a key ally. These measures ensured stability on Egypt's northern borders and provided the peaceful international environment that Amenhotep III would inherit and expertly manage. Thus, the stage was set by his father and grandfathers. The empire was secure, the treasury was filling, and the focus of pharaonic power was beginning to shift from the sword to the scepter. As Amenhotep III entered the final years of his nearly 4-decade reign, the golden radiance of his court began to show its first signs of twilight. The pharaoh, who had presided over an era of unparalleled peace and prosperity, was now an old man, suffering from debilitating health problems. Forensic examination of his mummy has revealed severe dental issues, including painful abscesses, and he likely suffered from arthritis and other ailments, troubles even hinted at in the Amarna Letters. In those letters, the king of Mitanni sends a statue of the healing goddess Ishtar of Nineveh to Egypt twice. The dazzling Sun King was, in the end, a mortal man, succumbing to the ravages of time. The question of succession became paramount. Amenhotep III's eldest son and chosen heir, Crown Prince Thutmose, had tragically died before his father, leaving the path to the throne open for his younger brother, also named Amenhotep, who had been raised in the opulent, theologically charged atmosphere of his father's court, steeped in a new solar theology that elevated the Aten and deified the pharaoh. To strengthen the transition of power, Amenhotep III may have established a co-regency with his son in his final years, allowing the younger Amenhotep to learn the ropes of kingship under his father's guidance, though the evidence remains a subject of scholarly debate. This period marked a critical handover from one generation to the next. When Amenhotep III finally died, around his 38th regnal year, he was laid to rest in a magnificent tomb in the Valley of the Kings. His great royal wife, the influential Queen Tiye, outlived him by several years, continuing to be a powerful presence at court during the early reign of her son. The new pharaoh, Amenhotep IV, inherited an empire at the absolute zenith of its wealth and international prestige. He inherited a stable government, a full treasury, and a sophisticated diplomatic network. For a few years, he continued his father's policies, building at Karnak in a traditional style. Yet it soon became clear he had a radically different vision for Egypt's future. The subtle religious shifts initiated by Amenhotep III were about to become a revolutionary earthquake. The younger Amenhotep would take his father's promotion of the Aten and his personal deification to their most extreme conclusion. He would change his name to Akhenaten, abandon Thebes, and build a new capital dedicated to the worship of the Aten as the one and only god. He would deface the temples of Amun-Ra and other traditional deities, plunging Egypt into a period of religious schism that would shatter the very foundations of its culture. The peaceful, confident world of Amenhotep III would give way to the turbulent revolutionary era of his son, an outcome that was the unintended legacy of his own theological experiments. Despite the revolutionary turmoil that followed his death, the legacy of Amenhotep III endures, primarily through the breathtaking monuments and art he left behind. Though his own magnificent mortuary temple was dismantled by later pharaohs, its colossal entrance statues, the Colossi of Memnon, have survived for over 3,000 years. These silent, seated giants have captured the imagination of travellers since antiquity, standing as lonely, awe-inspiring testaments to the lost grandeur of his reign. The elegant, colonnaded hall at Luxor Temple remains one of the most beautiful structures to survive from ancient Egypt, a masterpiece that perfectly encapsulates the refined aesthetic of his era. The hundreds of statues he commissioned, with their serene, youthful faces and divine attributes, set a standard for royal portraiture emulated for generations. More surviving statues bear his name than that of any other pharaoh. This artistic explosion defined a golden age of Egyptian craftsmanship, a high point of cultural achievement still studied and admired today. He was the great Sun King of the Nile, a pharaoh who so successfully equated himself with the divine and the eternal that his legacy, carved in stone and scattered across the land of Egypt, continues to leave us in awe. In the grand tapestry of ancient Egyptian history, a few names shine with an exceptional brilliance, casting long shadows across the millennia. One such name is Sneferu. He was a monarch who stood at the very beginning of what many consider Egypt's golden age. As the first pharaoh of the Fourth Dynasty, a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity, Sneferu's reign marked a pivotal moment. It was a time of immense cultural and architectural transformation. His rule laid the very foundations upon which his successors would build, creating a legacy that would echo through eternity. The name Sneferu itself offers a window into the character of the king and the values of his era. In the ancient Egyptian language, his name translates to "he of beauty," or "to make beautiful." This was not merely a title, but a declaration of intent, a mission statement for his reign. Sneferu sought to bring perfection and order, ma'at, to the world around him. This ambition showed up in administration and governance, and most spectacularly in the colossal stone monuments he commissioned. His reign heralded the start of the Fourth Dynasty, a lineage of kings who would oversee the zenith of the Old Kingdom. This period is remembered for monumental construction, especially the Great Pyramids. Sneferu was the patriarch of this dynasty of giants. He was the father of Khufu, the builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza. But before Khufu could build his wonder, Sneferu had to master pyramid building first. He embarked on a journey of trial and error on an astonishing scale. In this exploration of Sneferu's life, we will journey back over 4,500 years. We will uncover the story of the man behind the monuments. We will examine his family. We will trace his rise to power. We will estimate the length of his influential reign. We will delve into the architectural evolution under his watch. Meidum, the bent pyramid, the red pyramid. We will also investigate his foreign policies. We will examine his economic strategies and how he financed these feats, and how he secured Egypt's place as a dominant power in the ancient world. Before Sneferu, the royal tomb of a pharaoh was typically a step pyramid. The most famous example is the step pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara, designed by the brilliant architect Imhotep. This earlier structure was essentially a series of stacked mastabas, rectangular tombs, one on top of the other, creating a stairway to the heavens. While revolutionary, it was not the smooth, geometric shape we associate with the classic pyramid. Sneferu inherited this tradition, but was not content to simply replicate the past. He harboured a far grander vision that would require immense resources and daring innovation. His ambition? To create a true, smooth-sided pyramid. To be a perfect gleaming structure representing the primordial mound and the sun god Ra. This was a monumental challenge in design and in logistics. No one had attempted such a feat before. It demanded rethinking construction, starting with quarrying, transporting massive stone blocks, calculating precise angles for stability. Sneferu's reign became a laboratory of architectural experimentation. Successes, failures. Throughout this documentary, we will examine his building program. We begin at Meidum, an existing step pyramid transformed, possibly catastrophically collapsed. Then to Dashur, the royal necropolis, the bent pyramid, a visible change in engineering plans midway through construction. Builders grappling with structural instability. Finally, the Red Pyramid, his ultimate masterpiece, the world's first successful, true, smooth-sided pyramid, a testament to Sneferu's persistence and decades of architectural evolution. It secured his legacy. It provided the blueprint for his son Khufu to build the Great Pyramid of Giza. Join us as we piece together the story of Sneferu, the king who learned from his mistakes and perfected the pyramid. Sneferu's path to becoming the ruler of the two lands was not a straightforward inheritance. He was not the direct offspring of his predecessor, Huni, the last king of the Third Dynasty. Instead, his legitimacy came through a strategic marriage. He married Hetepheres III, believed to be a daughter of Huni. This union served as a crucial bridge between the old dynasty and the new, ensuring a stable transition. By marrying a royal princess, Sneferu, with obscure parentage, linked himself to the divine bloodline and cemented his claim. His rise began the Fourth Dynasty, an era of power, wealth, and architectural grandeur. He didn't just inherit a kingdom, he inaugurated an era. His reign centralized power and created an efficient administration to mobilize resources and manpower. He established a new court and necropolis at Dashur, leaving the old centers at Saqqara and Meidum. The move signaled a fresh start and a break from Third Dynasty traditions. Sneferu reshaped Egypt. He used ideology and architecture to express royal authority. Stability and prosperity were means to a grander goal. He projected the pharaoh as a divine, living god, absolute and eternal. That vision was recorded in papyrus scrolls and more visibly in millions of tons of limestone, monuments to his ambition and piety for millennia to come. Determining the exact length of Sneferu's reign is a challenge. The Turin King list credits Sneferu with a reign of 24 years. For many years, this was the accepted length. However, more recent discoveries have led many experts to believe that Sneferu ruled for much longer. Inscriptions found at his Red Pyramid at Dashur mention the year of the 15th occasion of the cattle count. If this count occurred every 2 years, the 15th count would correspond to the 30th year of his reign, providing a more plausible window for his extensive building projects. Today, many scholars propose a reign of at least 30 years, with some suggesting it could have extended to as long as 48 years. Sneferu's family life was central to the stability. His principal wife was Queen Hetepheres I. The magnificent and beautifully preserved funerary equipment found within her tomb offers a breathtaking glimpse into the wealth and craftsmanship of Sneferu's court. Sneferu fathered a significant number of children. Many of his sons were appointed to the highest offices. The twin statues of Rahotep and his wife Nofret are renowned for their lifelike appearance, with inlaid crystal eyes that seem to gaze out across the millennia. The succession of a pharaoh was a matter of supreme importance. The heir became Khufu. Khufu was Sneferu's son with his principal queen, Hetepheres I. That parentage gave Khufu an unimpeachable claim to the throne. Growing up, Khufu was immersed in monumental construction culture. He witnessed immense logistical challenges. He saw engineering dilemmas. He saw the triumphs of Sneferu's projects. Sneferu had done the hard experimentation. Sneferu provided the perfected blueprint for a true pyramid. He literally and figuratively laid the foundation for the Great Pyramid of Giza. Sneferu's architectural journey began at Meidum. A mysterious, dramatic structure dominates the desert. The Meidum Pyramid today looks like a colossal stone tower ringed by a mountain of rubble and sand. It likely began as a step pyramid by Huni. Sneferu took over and enlarged it, then attempted to fill the steps with packing stones and encase it in polished Tura limestone. But something went terribly wrong at Meidum. One of the leading theories points to a fundamental design flaw. They built the outer casing on an unstable foundation of sand. This structural instability would have been a disaster waiting to happen. Whatever the true cause and timing, Meidum was a failure, but it was a crucial failure from which Sneferu would learn important lessons. It was the first major experiment in learning how to build a perfect pyramid. Having learned from the disaster at Meidum, Sneferu moved his building operations north to Dahshur. Here he began his second great pyramid, the Bent Pyramid. This pyramid is unique for its distinctive change in angle partway up its height. The lower section rises at a steep and ambitious angle of 54 degrees. However, about halfway up, the builders made a sudden and dramatic change. The angle of incline was abruptly reduced to a much safer and more gentle 43 degrees. The most widely accepted theory is that the steep initial angle was proving to be structurally unstable. Cracks likely began to appear in the walls. Faced with the very real possibility of a second collapse, the architects made the pragmatic decision to reduce the angle. The Bent Pyramid is remarkable because it is one of the best preserved pyramids, retaining a large portion of its original polished limestone casing. This gives us a fantastic impression of how these ancient monuments would have originally looked. After the near failure of the Bent Pyramid, Sneferu was not deterred. He immediately commissioned a third and final Great Pyramid. The Red Pyramid would be the culmination of his life's work. For the Red Pyramid, they chose a safe, shallow angle of 43 degrees from the start, the same successful angle used for the Bent Pyramid's top portion. That conservative angle ensured incredible stability. The Red Pyramid rises to a height of 105 meters, making it the third largest pyramid in Egypt. It is surpassed only by the Pyramid of Khufu and by the Pyramid of Khafre. Its construction represents the moment engineers finally mastered true pyramid building. The Red Pyramid is a testament to Sneferu's persistence. It was the world's first successful, large-scale, smooth-sided, true pyramid, and it became Sneferu's final resting place. A pharaoh's duty extended far beyond monumental construction. It was about maintaining Ma'at, the divine order. That included protecting Egypt's borders. Sneferu's reign was marked by assertive foreign policy. The Palermo stone records that Sneferu launched a major campaign against the Libyans. The Palermo stone gives numbers. Sneferu's armies captured 1,100 prisoners and 13,100 head of cattle. To the south lay Nubia, rich in gold, exotic goods, and manpower. Sneferu also campaigned south to secure those resources. The campaign established Egyptian dominance over Lower Nubia and opened trade and extraction of wealth. Beyond military campaigns, Sneferu's foreign policy was heavily focused on trade. To solve this, Sneferu looked north to the Levant. The Palermo stone records that the king dispatched a fleet of 40 ships filled with cedar wood. Sneferu also fostered expeditions to the Sinai Peninsula. The Sinai was rich in valuable minerals, particularly turquoise and copper. Inscriptions bearing Sneferu's name have been found at Wadi Maghare, show the pharaoh smiting an enemy, symbolizing his dominion over the region. The Egyptian economy was a highly centralized command economy, a redistributive economy. A vast bureaucracy of scribes and officials meticulously recorded agricultural output. This collected wealth was the engine that powered the state. These were not slaves, but skilled craftsmen and rotational labourers compensated with rations. They were well fed, housed in purpose-built towns, and received medical care, indicating they were valued and essential. In the final analysis, Sneferu's reign stands as a monumental turning point. He was more than just a builder of pyramids, he was the architect of an era. His legacy is etched not only in the millions of tons of stone he commanded, but also in the very fabric of the Fourth Dynasty's power and prosperity. Unlike many pharaohs who were feared, Sneferu was remembered fondly by later generations as a benign and wise ruler. His reign was looked back upon as a time of greatness and benevolent authority. He bequeathed to his son, Khufu, not just a perfected pyramid design, but a kingdom at the absolute zenith of its strength. A wealthy, well-organized and powerful state ready to embark on the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. He was the king who mastered the pyramid, the father of the most powerful dynasty of the Old Kingdom, and the visionary who laid the foundations upon which the very pinnacle of Egyptian civilization was built, securing his place as one of the most important and impressive pharaohs ever to rule the land of the Nile. When one thinks of Britain and its deep, abiding fascination with ancient Egypt, certain images spring to mind. We see the grand columned halls of the British Museum. We picture dusty adventurers in pith helmets, their faces etched by the desert sun. We imagine the thrill of discovery. We imagine uncovering a tomb sealed for millennia. But between the sands of the Nile Valley and the galleries of London, there stood figures who made this connection possible. The galleries of London, the gatekeepers, the facilitators, the men on the ground, those who turned wonder into pathways between worlds. One of the most important, yet often overlooked of these figures, was a man named Henry Salt. He was not a king or a general, yet his influence on our understanding of ancient Egypt is as monumental as the statues he helped bring to the world. Henry Salt was born in Lichfield, Staffordshire, in 1780. It was a world away from the desert landscapes he would later call home. His father was a physician, a respected man in town. Lichfield's magnificent three-spire cathedral, the town's intellectual climate, birthplace of Dr. Samuel Johnson. Young Henry grew up in a comfortable middle-class home that encouraged the genteel arts. He was the youngest of 8 children. From an early age, he showed a distinct talent for drawing. His sketchbook became everything. His early education was respectable, though not destined for Oxford or Cambridge. He attended school in Lichfield and later in nearby Market Bosworth. His father recognised his gifts and decided to nurture them. He was sent to London to study painting. He studied under Joseph Farrington, then trained at the Royal Academy. During his time as a student in London, Henry Salt developed more than brush or pencil. He cultivated curiosity beyond the studio, observing people and places and learning languages. While his formal education was unremarkable, his self-education was extensive. He read widely: travel, geography, history. This blend of artistry and inquiry made him ideal for Viscount Valentia, who wished to document the world. Before photography, the expedition artist was paramount, a faithful visual recorder. Botanical and zoological studies, architectural wonders and ceremonial dress, and the very shape of the land. His drawings were data, Britain's first glimpses of distant worlds. Salt's calm temperament suited delicate dealings with dignitaries and officials. In Ottoman lands, protocol was perilous, missteps could be disastrous. He learned to listen, to work through interpreters, and to communicate clearly, a diplomat in embryo. In 1802, Henry Salt set sail with Viscount Valentia on a voyage that would define his future. Eastward, around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, to India. In Calcutta, he sketched the life and architecture of a bustling imperial city. In 1805, Valentia sent Salt into the interior of Abyssinia, a Christian kingdom closed to Europeans. His task? Establish contact with the emperor and explore trade for Britain. He faced treacherous terrain and complex politics, yet reached the royal court. He documented customs, language and history, producing portraits and landscapes of enduring value. The mission proved a success, enhancing his reputation. He returned in 1806. His work appeared in Valentia's Voyages and Travels, 1809, lavishly illustrated from Salt's drawings. Its success led to a second official mission as Crown Envoy. In 1811, travelling home through Egypt, he saw the monuments that would later dominate his life, the perfect apprenticeship for Britain's man in Cairo. In 1815, Napoleon fell and Europe was remade. Peace refocused minds on global trade and influence. Egypt, under Muhammad Ali, was rising, ambitious, modernizing, strategically vital. In 1816, Henry Salt was appointed British Consul General. He protected British trade, dealing with merchants, captains, customs. He was also a political operative, managing relations with Muhammad Ali. And he countered France's formidable consul, Bernardino Drovetti. Salt became the point of contact for Europe's travellers, scholars and adventurers. His office gave access, permissions to travel and excavate. He supplied escorts and support. Thus, consular duty merged with discovery. He was no bystander, he was a central participant in Egypt's great unearthing. Once established, Salt pursued antiquities with extraordinary energy, part cultural rivalry with France, part personal mission. Both he and Drovetti sought the finest treasures for national collections. Salt employed agents and sponsored expeditions along the Nile. His most effective agent was Giovanni Battista Belzoni, former circus strongman, fearless, ingenious. Salt tasked him to remove the granite bust of Rameses II, the younger Memnon, at Thebes. Napoleon's men had failed. In 1816, Belzoni's rollers and levers succeeded. The 7-ton monolith began its journey to London. Its arrival caused a sensation, echoed in Shelley's Ozymandias. In 1817, Belzoni opened the tomb of Seti I, walls alive with colour. He made meticulous copies and a wax impression of the exquisite sarcophagus. He entered Khafre's pyramid, disproving old beliefs. Salt's funding, cover and direction turned muscle into method, though by modern standards the methods were crude and fast. Over his years in Egypt, Salt assembled three enormous collections: systematic troves of statues, sarcophagi, papyri, mummies, and countless small objects. The first collection, gathered between 1816 and 1818, after protracted negotiations, was purchased by the British Museum in 1823. It formed the bedrock of the museum's Egyptian sculpture gallery. The second collection, richer for scholars, included Seti's sarcophagus. Offered again to the British Museum, it was controversially declined. Exhibited, then sold in Paris in 1826. Many key pieces, including crucial papyri, went to the Louvre. Seti's sarcophagus found a home with Sir John Soane, where it remains. Salt's third collection, over 1,000 objects, many stelae and Greek papyri, was gathered in his final years. After his death in 1827, it was sold in London in 1835. The British Museum bought heavily, no longer willing to miss its chance. Throughout his hectic life, Salt never abandoned art. His paintbrush and sketchbook were constant companions. Trained and composed, he captured likeness, colour and character. He recorded landscapes and monumental ruins, Karnak, Philae, Abu Simbel. He preserved their early 19th century appearance, often before decay or restoration. His portraits sought the dignity and individuality of his subjects, not mere types. His art bridged cultures, communication in line and colour. 24 views: St. Helena, the Cape, India, Ceylon, Abyssinia and Egypt. A visual autobiography, tracing his path from draftsman to consul. Before collector or diplomat, he was an artist, bringing an artist's eye to the ancient world. His fame rests on antiquities, yet his art, too often overlooked, remains vital. In his final years, Salt's health declined and weariness set in. The Egyptian climate, once invigorating, took its toll. A recurring illness, likely of the spleen or liver, left him weakened. The great game of collecting now felt a burden, yet he served on, building a third collection. In 1826 he journeyed up the Nile, partly for health, partly to oversee his agents. With John Gardner Wilkinson, he revisited the sites that shaped his life. It was a poignant farewell to temples and tombs. He returned more unwell than ever, set his affairs in order and wrote his will. He ensured his final collection would be catalogued and sold. Henry Salt died on October 30th, 1827, near Alexandria, in Dessouq. Buried in Alexandria, the gateway to his life's work, the sun set on one of the 19th century's most remarkable lives. Henry Salt's legacy is complex and far-reaching. The British Museum's Egyptian galleries stand on his efforts. He provided both monumental sculptures and intimate artifacts, bringing the pharaohs face-to-face with the public. His collections underpinned the rise of Egyptology, language, history, religion. He sponsored Belzoni, assisted Champollion, supported Wilkinson. He bridged treasure hunters and modern archaeologists, typical of his time, yet moving knowledge forward. His legacy is debated today. Ethics, ownership, repatriation. He operated with the ruler's permission, yet questions endure. Ultimately, Salt was a diplomat who grasped culture's power, an artist who prized beauty, a collector who recognized significance. His life mirrors Europe's encounter with Egypt. Wonder, competition, discovery, appropriation. His name may not rival Carter's or Ramesses, but as Egypt's gatekeeper, Henry Salt profoundly shaped how we see the ancient world. In the sands of time, few figures emerge with such clarity as Queen Nefertiti. Her name echoes through millennia. She is an icon, a face recognized across the globe. Her image, captured in a breathtaking bust, has become synonymous with ancient Egypt. It speaks of refined beauty and regal poise. This is the story of a ruler at the heart of a revolutionary era during the 18th dynasty. She was more than just the wife of a pharaoh, she was his partner. Together, she and Akhenaten challenged their society, embarking on a cultural and religious revolution. Her life is a tapestry woven with threads of power, love, political intrigue and deep mystery. To understand Nefertiti is to journey back to a world on the brink of transformation. Nefertiti's life is a captivating mystery. Her origins are debated by historians and archaeologists. She appeared as the great royal wife of Pharaoh Akhenaten. Was she a foreign princess or an Egyptian noblewoman? Records are silent. As queen, she wielded unprecedented influence, depicted in powerful positions. This signaled her unique status in the new religious and political order. She vanished abruptly from the historical record. What happened to her? This silence fuels speculation, leaving us to wonder about her final act. To truly understand Nefertiti, we must embark on a journey back in time. We will travel to the heart of the 18th dynasty, an era of opulence and empire building that created the perfect stage for her rise. We will explore the world she was born into, a land governed by a complex pantheon of gods and a powerful priesthood that had held sway for centuries. It was a world of rigid tradition and divine order, a structure that Nefertiti and her husband were destined to challenge in the most dramatic fashion imaginable, setting in motion a revolution that would change Egypt forever. Our story will follow her marriage to the young pharaoh, Akhenaten, a visionary and a heretic. Together, they turned their backs on the ancient gods of Thebes. They championed a new faith, Atenism, which worshipped a single universal deity, the Aten, represented as the life-giving disk of the sun. We will witness the creation of a new capital city, Akhetaten, the horizon of the Aten built from scratch in the desert. Here, in this grand experiment, Nefertiti was not just a queen, she was a high priestess, a divine intermediary between the Aten and humanity, alongside her husband. We will delve into the contentious debate surrounding her later years. Did Nefertiti rule Egypt in her own right after her husband's death? We will examine the evidence for a female pharaoh known as Neferuaten, who reigned briefly before the famous boy king, Tutankhamun, took the throne. Could this mysterious ruler have been Nefertiti, adopting a new name to legitimize her reign as king? This is one of the most hotly contested issues in modern Egyptology, a puzzle that, if solved, could rewrite our understanding of royal succession and female power in the ancient world. Finally, we will explore her enduring legacy. From the search for her lost tomb to the ongoing scientific quest to identify her mummy, the story of Nefertiti is far from over. She has become a timeless symbol of beauty, power, and female strength, an ancient queen whose influence resonates powerfully in our modern world. Join us as we uncover the story of her life, separate fact from fiction, and attempt to solve the enduring mysteries surrounding Nefertiti, the beautiful one, the Queen of the Nile, and perhaps the female pharaoh of Egypt. To understand Nefertiti, we must first understand her world. Nefertiti was born into the 18th dynasty of Egypt, the New Kingdom. This was an empire at the absolute peak of its power and influence. Warrior pharaohs had expanded Egypt's borders, creating a vast dominion. This was an age of unprecedented prosperity, where immense wealth flowed into the royal coffers. The society Nefertiti entered was one of supreme confidence and stability, built upon centuries of tradition and a deeply ingrained religious system. A vast pantheon of gods and goddesses governed every aspect of daily life. The priests wielded enormous political and economic power. Their influence was second only to that of the pharaoh himself. Nefertiti's future husband was the son of Pharaoh Amenhotep III. The reign of Amenhotep III represented the zenith of this golden age. His court was the most opulent in the world. He commissioned magnificent temples. This was the glittering world that Nefertiti was destined to enter and ultimately to help overturn. This was a world defined by Ma'at, the divine principle of order. The pharaoh's primary duty was to uphold Ma'at. The art and architecture were all designed to reflect this perfect order. It was into this civilization that Nefertiti arrived, a woman whose destiny was intertwined with a man who would soon decide that a radical new vision was required for Egypt. Around 1353 BC, Nefertiti became the great royal wife of Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, placing her at the center of Egyptian power. As queen, she was an essential partner in the divine kingship. From the beginning, it was clear this would be a powerful partnership. Inscriptions emphasized the Aten, represented as a solar disk. Nefertiti and Amenhotep IV had 6 daughters. Amenhotep IV and Nefertiti made their family life a central theme. This public display of affection presented the royal family as the sole conduit to the divine. Nefertiti was the female principle of the divine, balancing her husband. She is depicted at nearly the same scale as her husband, a clear visual statement of her elevated status. Around his 5th year, the pharaoh took a radical step. He changed his name from Amenhotep to Akhenaten, declaring war on the old religious order. Akhenaten rejected the powerful priesthood and elevated the Aten above all others. This was the dawn of a religious revolution, and Nefertiti was his most ardent supporter. Thebes was no longer a suitable capital. Akhenaten and Nefertiti chose a virgin site in the desert and founded a new city dedicated to the Aten. They called it Akhetaten, known today as Amarna. With the new city came a revolutionary new art style, characterized by naturalism and emotional expression. Nefertiti, with her famous beauty, became the chief subject of this new aesthetic. In the City of the Sun, Nefertiti stood side by side with her husband, 2 living gods on earth. At the heart of this revolution stood Akhenaten, a visionary, and to the old guard, a dangerous heretic. He believed the universe was governed by the Aten, a radical departure from Egypt's complex pantheon. He was attempting to erase all the other gods. By his side stood Nefertiti, his great royal wife, a true believer in this disruptive project. She's shown as a leading figure in the new cult, a powerful force in her own right. Together they presented themselves as the sole intermediaries between humanity and the Aten. By challenging the old gods, they were directly challenging the powerful priesthood of Amun-Ra. It was a high-stakes gamble that would set in motion a chain of events that would define their reign and their legacy. Atenism was a faith stripped of complex mythology and animal-headed deities. The Aten was the sun itself, the source of light, warmth and life. This was a shift from a national religion to a universal one for all of humanity. The theology is expressed in the great hymn to the Aten, speaking of the sun disk as a universal creator. Life was to be lived in the light of the sun under the guidance of the royal family. The only path to the Aten was through Akhenaten and Nefertiti, making the royal family more powerful. This placed Nefertiti in a position of unprecedented spiritual authority. Families were encouraged to worship the royal family at small domestic shrines. The love between Akhenaten and Nefertiti became the metaphor for the Aten's love for its creation. Never before in Egyptian history had a queen been depicted with such prominence and authority. In the art of Amarna, Nefertiti is almost always present, a constant companion to her husband. She is shown at a scale equal to his, a deliberate visual statement of her importance. This was a radical break from tradition, where queens were typically shown as smaller, subordinate figures. Here, Nefertiti stands as a partner, a co-ruler who shares in the pharaoh's divine status and kingly duties. Her power was not merely reflected from her husband, it was inherent and celebrated. The evidence for her power is startling and unambiguous. On the walls of temples, she is shown performing roles that were once the sole prerogative of the king. Most remarkably, there are depictions of Nefertiti smiting the enemies of Egypt, a classic pharaonic pose symbolizing the triumph of order over chaos. To see a queen adopting this powerful, violent imagery was revolutionary. It suggests that her role was not confined to the religious sphere, but extended into the political and military authority of the state. She was not just a priestess, she was a ruler, embodying the power of the throne itself. Her titles and epithets further underscore her unique position. She was called Lady of the Two Lands, a title usually associated with the king and mistress of Upper and Lower Egypt. In the new city of Akhetaten, she had her own large palace and a sunshade temple, known as the Maru Aten, dedicated to her. It seems she was worshipped there, alongside her husband and the Aten. Inscriptions reveal that she was seen as the sweet-voiced counterpart to Akhenaten, whose soothing presence calmed the god and brought blessings upon the land. She was an active and essential component of the New World Order. Furthermore, Nefertiti's role as the mother of 6 daughters was central to the state ideology. The succession of the dynasty depended on her children. Her daughters, particularly the eldest, Meritaten and Ankhesenaten, were also given prominent roles in court life and religious ritual. This focus on the female line was another unusual aspect of the Amarna period. It created a powerful matriarchal presence at the heart of the royal court, with Nefertiti as its head. Her influence was woven into the very fabric of the political, religious and family life of the Amarna revolution. To house their revolution, they built Akhetaten, the horizon of the Aten in the empty desert. Unlike cramped cities like Thebes, Akhetaten was open with temples designed to let the sunlight pour in. Everything about the city was designed to serve the Aten. The city contained everything needed for the Egyptian state to function, from palaces to workshops. For a brief period, Akhetaten was the vibrant heart of the Egyptian empire. Each day, Akhenaten and Nefertiti would process along the royal road to perform rituals to the Aten. But this perfect city was built on a fragile foundation, dependent on Akhenaten and Nefertiti. While the sun shone on Akhetaten, shadows were gathering. The city of the sun disk was destined to have a short, tragic history. For years, Nefertiti stood at the pinnacle of power, her image inscribed across Amarna. Then something changes. The vibrant queen begins to fade from the historical record. What caused this sudden disappearance? The simplest explanation: Nefertiti had died, perhaps a victim of plague. Another theory suggests a dramatic falling out or a political disagreement. A third, more extraordinary possibility: what if she ascended to an even greater height? Some believe she transformed, took on a new identity and continued to rule. In the chaotic final years of Akhenaten's reign, the historical record becomes cloudy. The pharaoh himself dies around his 17th year on the throne, leaving a precarious power vacuum. The revolution he started had turned much of the country against him, and the question of succession was critical. In this moment of uncertainty, a new ruler appears in the official records. This ruler is a mysterious figure, a pharaoh who reigned for a very short time, perhaps only 2 or 3 years, between Akhenaten and the famous boy king, Tutankhamun. The throne name of this ruler was Ankheperur. The identity of this pharaoh is one of the greatest puzzles in all of Egyptian history. To complicate matters, this ruler used different personal names. Sometimes the name is Smenkhkare, who seems to have been a male co-regent of Akhenaten. At other times, however, the throne name Ankheperur is associated with a different personal name, Neferneferuaten. This name, which means beautiful are the perfections of the Aten, is strikingly similar to Nefertiti's own full name, Neferneferuaten Nefertiti. This similarity is too great to be a coincidence, and it forms the basis of a truly revolutionary theory about the succession. The evidence becomes even more compelling when we look at the grammar. In some versions of the pharaoh Neferneferuaten's cartouche, there are feminine indicators within the hieroglyphs. It is as if the scribes were struggling with how to write the name of a female who had taken on the titles of a male king. Furthermore, some epithets used for this pharaoh, such as effective for her husband, make little sense for a male ruler, but would be perfectly fitting for a queen who had succeeded her husband. The clues, scattered across different artifacts, seem to point in one astonishing direction, that the pharaoh Neferneferuaten was a woman. Artifacts from Tutankhamun's tomb provide more tantalizing hints. Many of the objects in his famously lavish burial were not originally made for him. They were inherited or repurposed from his immediate predecessors. Among these items are objects inscribed with the name of the pharaoh Neferneferuaten. Some of these objects, when studied closely, appear to have been originally created for a woman before being adapted for a male king. All of these tangled threads, the similar name, the feminine grammar, the repurposed objects, lead us to one primary and very famous suspect for the identity of this mysterious female pharaoh. Could Queen Nefertiti and the enigmatic pharaoh Neferneferuaten be the same person? Some scholars believe so. The theory suggests Nefertiti became pharaoh in her own right, adopting a new royal name and ruling as king, much like Hatshepsut before her. This would explain her sudden disappearance as queen and the feminine traces in Neferneferuaten's titles. It implies Akhenaten elevated Nefertiti to co-ruler, preparing her for sole kingship. Not all agree. Some argue Neferneferuaten was a daughter or a male relative, and the evidence remains fragmentary. The debate is fierce, with clues that are ambiguous and open to interpretation. Yet the idea of King Nefertiti is compelling, fitting her pattern of breaking tradition and wielding power. If true, she would have steered Egypt through turmoil after Akhenaten's death, bridging the Amarna era and the restoration under Tutankhamun. This would make her not just a legendary queen, but one of history's most remarkable female rulers. Nefertiti's possible reign as pharaoh remains one of Egypt's greatest mysteries. Whoever ruled after Akhenaten, their reign was brief and marked by dramatic change. Amarna's religious revolution faltered, and the old priesthood waited to reclaim power. Foreign policy suffered, and Akhenaten's death left his vision vulnerable. The new pharaoh, possibly Neferneferuaten, began reconciling with the old guard and priesthood. The court abandoned Amarna, returning to Thebes, a clear admission of failure. Within a generation, Amarna was deserted, its memory erased by later pharaohs. Akhenaten and his family's names were chiseled from monuments, their temples dismantled. If Nefertiti ruled as pharaoh, she presided over the undoing of her own revolution. Her final act may have been leading Egypt back to the old gods and ways. With Amarna's fall, Nefertiti vanishes from history, leaving only questions. The dream ended, but her enigma endured. After Amarna's fall, Nefertiti's fate is lost to history. No records reveal her end or burial. Her tomb remains undiscovered. Archaeologists have searched from Amarna to the Valley of the Kings, hoping for a clue. Theories abound. Did she die as queen or as pharaoh, and was her tomb destroyed or hidden? The Amarna legacy's erasure means any trace of her was a target for destruction. No funerary objects or tombs bear her name as a deceased queen. For such a prominent figure to vanish so completely is extraordinary. The search continues, using science and re-examined finds, hoping to find Nefertiti, perhaps under another name, or none at all. Her disappearance remains one of Egyptology's most tantalizing mysteries. The hunt for Nefertiti often centers on unidentified royal mummies. In 1898, Victor Loret found 3 anonymous mummies in KV 35. One, the younger lady, was once thought to be Nefertiti. DNA tests revealed she was Akhenaten's sister and Tutankhamun's mother, ruling out Nefertiti. Another lead, 2 unidentified women in KV 21, one possibly Tutankhamun's wife and Nefertiti's daughter. Identifying her daughter could help extrapolate Nefertiti's DNA, offering a new path. Science is complex, but hope remains. In 2015, Nicholas Reeves proposed that Tutankhamun's tomb hides a sealed chamber, possibly Nefertiti's intact tomb. Radar scans have been inconclusive, but the theory persists. Nefertiti may lie just beyond a wall, waiting to be found. The search for her remains is as alive as ever. Nefertiti's legacy endures, even as her fate remains unknown. Her iconic bust is one of the world's most recognized images, symbolizing beauty, power, and grace. She's become a global icon and a symbol of female empowerment. Nefertiti held real authority, possibly even ruling as pharaoh. Her story is celebrated as that of a trailblazer who shaped her own destiny. The mystery of her end only adds to her allure. Each new theory keeps her story alive and evolving. Nefertiti's life was one of transformation. Queen, possible pharaoh, and enduring legend. Her name means the beautiful one has come, and her legacy shines as brightly as ever. She remains a powerful, mysterious queen whose story continues to inspire. We began with the image of a queen whose beauty captivated the world. But Nefertiti was far more. She was a woman of power, substance, and revolutionary spirit. As great royal wife, she was an active partner in reshaping Egypt. Her influence is clear in art and history, depicting her as her husband's equal. The theory that she became Pharaoh Neferneferuaten adds a dramatic climax to her story. If true, she joined the rare ranks of female kings, guiding Egypt through upheaval. Whether as queen or pharaoh, her significance is undeniable. Nefertiti's journey from revolutionary queen to enduring icon proves her legacy is as timeless as her famous image. Her story continues to fascinate and inspire, echoing through history. Nefertiti's legacy is linked to the revolution she and Akhenaten championed. The Amarna period was ultimately a failure. The dream of a world united in worship could not survive its founders. Akhenaten was abandoned, the old gods were restored, and a campaign was launched to erase the memory of the heretic king and his family. For centuries this campaign was successful, yet a legacy cannot be so easily erased. The very act of attempting to destroy it created a mystery. The dismantled temple blocks allowed for the painstaking reconstruction of the world of Amarna. The attempt to silence her, ironically, preserved the evidence of her power. The unique Amarna art style represented a dramatic break with artistic convention. Nefertiti stands at the very heart of this complex legacy. Her story is a powerful reminder that the voices of the vanquished can echo through time. In the end, the attempt to erase her has only amplified our fascination. The story of Nefertiti is unfinished, an active investigation unfolding in the 21st century. The search for her tomb captures the imagination of the world. The scientific quest to identify her remains pushes the boundaries of what is possible. Nefertiti's power lies in her ability to inspire questions. She is a symbol of female strength, a cultural icon, and an unsolved historical mystery. The beautiful one came, she ruled, and in a way she never left. Queen Nefertiti achieved a form of immortality that has outlasted the stone of her monuments and the gold of her dynasty. Her story is not over. With every new discovery, the search for answers continues. Tanis, modern San el Hagar, lies in Egypt's northeastern Nile Delta. In the late New Kingdom, as the Pelusiac branch shifted and Pyrameses lost its river, a new centre took shape here among marshes and lagoons. Quiet today, it once stood at a crossroads of channels and silt. In the 21st and 22nd dynasties, Tanis rose as a northern capital. The Amun triad, Amun, Mut and Khonsu, framed kingship and festival here. Royal presence gathered around temples and courts on higher ground. The great temple precinct grew within a vast enclosure, pylons, courts, obelisks. Many stones came from Ramesside monuments at Pyrameses, brought north when harbours changed. Reuse was pragmatic policy. Established forms serving a new place. Canals tied the precinct to a river port and the port to delta and sea. Grain, timber, oils and fine wares moved by boat. Levees and quays shaped the shoreline. Prosperity followed the water. Beyond the walls, urban life is clear in traces, workshops, ovens and lanes. Potters fired Nile clay. Metalworkers shaped gold and silver, fishermen kept the canals. Festivals of the Amun triad threaded avenues between sphinxes and pylons. At Tanis, sacred stone was set again with purpose. Older names beside newer cartouches. What seems patchwork reads as continuity. Authority renewed in familiar granite. Beneath the sand, floors and walls built up in layers, a careful eye can read. Delta silt can both conceal and preserve. Wood, cordage and basketry survive in the damp. Yet the same shifting channels could quiet harbours and streets. As water moved, fortunes moved with it. Even so, Tanis endured, reconfigured rather than erased. Among columns and obelisks, a clear grammar appears: reuse, renewal, remembrance. Each block holds a prior life and a new role. In the north, Tanis answered Egypt's southern heartlands, a partner in cult and state. Here, faith and policy met in stone, and the ground kept a crowded archive. The quiet is only on the surface. As scholars sift that record, Tanis returns to view, its temples, streets and kings. Ahead lies the account of royal burials found here, art, ritual and power preserved. From these sands, a northern necropolis will speak. Nineteenth-century visitors first sketched Tanis. Auguste Mariette noting mounds and blocks, then Flinders Petrie measuring walls and cataloguing inscriptions. Maps, rubbings and early photographs fix features on the delta plain, coordinates before conclusions. In 1929, Pierre Montet began a systematic French mission at Tanis. Grids laid, notes kept, photographs logged. In 1939-1940, a sealed doorway opened to lamplight, intact royal chambers recorded before removal. War halted the work. Teams returned in the mid-1940s. They mapped chambers and niches, numbered blocks and jars, and photographed nested burials in orderly rows. Recording came first, plans inked, tags tied, exposures checked at the trench edge. Conservators stabilized fragile surfaces before a piece was moved. Later seasons joined French and Egyptian teams, surveys, photogrammetry, and careful rereads of earlier notes. Radiography and metal analysis added quiet evidence to names and dates. Geoarchaeology mapped paleo-channels around the site. Sand lenses, clay bands, and former branches of the Nile traced like a palimpsest. In labs and field tents, small tools did the work. Brushes, swabs, supports, materials read before any treatment. Under lamplight and microscope, gold leaf, textiles and timber were steadied. Joins were documented before storage. Catalogues linked objects to contexts so that the record stayed readable. Archives, plans, photographs, registers anchor attributions from the 21st and 22nd dynasties. Ongoing research refines them. Dates nudged, identifications clarified, methods explained in print. In Cairo, conserved pieces rest in quiet galleries. Publications and archives carry the site's record forward. From Tanis, method guides the story. Finds, contexts and careful words returning to view. The great temple precinct of Amun at Tanis stands wide to the sky. Massive enclosure walls, pylons and open courts still trace the plan. Stone frames empty space. The scale remains legible in light and wind. Sunlit passes reveal long axes, gateways, forecourts and processional space arranged in sequence. From above, the enclosure reads clearly against the delta plain. Standing pieces punctuate the courts, obelisks, colossal statues and sphinxes. Many are Ramesside works brought here and set anew. Bases and plinths show re-erection, old stone on new footings, alignments adjusted to fit the precinct. Reuse is visible, measured, deliberate. Scattered architectural blocks lie in ranks, column drums, lintels, and fragments with crisp cartouches. Mixed origins can be read on their faces, older royal names carried into a later plan. Doorway elements rest in secondary positions, jambs and thresholds reused as fill or boundary. The masonry tells the sequence of moves. Beyond the sacred enclosure, low mud brick mounds outline streets and courtyards, urban traces held by sand. Kiln platforms and work areas sit near the temple edge. Paths thread between brick rises. Eroded corners mark rooms and lanes. At the margins, canal and harbour edges meet the plain, berms, cuts and waterlines still visible. The delta landscape frames the site, reeds, shallow channels and shifting silt. Ruins and waterways share one horizon. In windswept courts, inscriptions catch and release light, hieroglyphs read by the sun's angle. Surfaces speak plainly where they stand. Details resolve on cartouches and recut figures. Old chisels, new lines, the eye follows joins and tool marks across time. The ruins function as an open archive, blocks ordered on pads, paths between notes of stone. Observation precedes conclusion. Here, legacy is visible in place. Reuse, renewal, remembrance set in quiet stone. We turn toward legacy and light. At Tanis, a royal necropolis came to light. Tombs of Susenes I, Amenhotep and Shoshenq II, with material linked to Takalot I and others. Sealed chambers, careful notes and measured work made their story legible. Susenes I rested within nested coffins, his gold funerary mask and silver inner coffins beside him. Silver scarce in Egypt, associated with cool lunar light. Necklaces, pectorals, amulets and inlays lay as priests had placed them. Around the king stood ranks of shabti figures. Canopic jars observed. Heart scarabs, bead net shrouds and faience rosettes formed ordered layers, the arrangement left by ritual hands. Delta damp preserved reeds, cord, wood and linen, even as it tarnished silver and softened copper alloys. Conservators proceed slowly, radiographs and notes first, swabs, shims and supports after, stabilizing joins and lifting salts. Chemistry and imaging guide the hand. Today, the finds are seen chiefly in Cairo, the Egyptian Museum and the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. Ongoing cataloguing and analysis continue to refine dates and attributions. Quiet updates that sharpen context. Digital models and archives stitch scattered blocks. Drones and satellites trace paleo channels that frame interpretation. Provenance and open records keep the ledger clear, while teaching passes the method on. Measure, draw, compare. Under gallery lamps, gold burns steady, silver breathes cool. Faience and linen hold a soft light. Legacy here is method and memory. What we preserve is understanding. The mask watches, quiet and constant. Tanis, also called San el-Hagar, carries older names in texts. In the Hebrew Bible, it appears as Zoan. In the Septuagint, Tanis, placing a northern court in the delta. Late antique geographers marked it on river maps, cities strung along shifting branches. Early travellers sketch pylons and obelisks. Photographers fix the ruins in silver light. Reports, engravings and museum displays shape the public imagination of delta capitals. In modern culture, Tanis is often invoked as a lost city in the sands, an image carried by adventure fiction and film. These stories enliven interest, yet blur timelines and places. Archaeology proceeds by trenches and notes, not legends. Context logged, provenance is traced, claims tested against the record. Myth remains myth. Spectacular treasures and sacred objects circulate in stories, not in verified finds at Tanis. What we do have are named kings, mapped tombs, and catalogued objects. Quiet data that carries weight. Museums present the evidence, labels explain limits as well as facts. Documentaries and classroom films bring Tanis to new audiences. Measured words over measured drawings. Provenance and method keep the record readable. Digital reconstructions now thread fragments together. Photogrammetry, point clouds, and careful overlays re-raise colonnades on screen. Interactive maps trace paleo-channels across the delta. Scans and isotopes add sources and joins to the story. Exhibitions pair artifacts with models, context restored without moving a stone. The message endures, shifting rivers, resilient cities. Tanis stands as a northern counterpart to Thebes, two voices in Egypt's wider story. From scriptures to screens, Tanis returns, quiet facts under warm light. The delta breathes, the record remains. The sands of Egypt hold more than just ancient ruins and buried treasure. They whisper stories of a civilization that thrived for millennia. Journey with us now as we peel back the layers of time and uncover the culinary world of the ancient Egyptians. Imagine the Nile River, a glistening ribbon of life meandering through the desert. Its fertile banks gave birth to a civilization that would become a beacon of art, architecture and culture. The food of ancient Egypt wasn't merely sustenance. It was a reflection of their beliefs, their social structure and their deep connection to the land. Through their cuisine we can catch a glimpse of their world. Their culinary legacy, much like their towering pyramids, stands as a testament to their ingenuity and sophistication. They transformed simple ingredients, gifted to them by the Nile, into dishes both practical and indulgent. They understood the art of flavour, the delicate dance of herbs and spices, and the importance of preserving food in a land where the sun blazed relentlessly. It's time to uncover the secrets of their kitchens, explore the ingredients that graced their tables, and discover the flavours that tantalized their palates. Join us as we embark on a culinary adventure through time. Prepare to be transported back in time to a world where food was more than just sustenance. It was a celebration of life itself. The Nile River, often referred to as the father of life by the ancient Egyptians, was much more than a waterway. It was the lifeblood of the civilization, its ebb and flow dictating the rhythm of their lives. Wheat, barley and emmer, these grains, nurtured by the Nile's annual floods, were the staples of their daily bread. Bread, in its various forms, was the cornerstone of their meals, a testament to the land's generosity. Lentils, chickpeas and fava beans, these protein-rich legumes, added variety and sustenance to their diet. The ancient Egyptians were masters of cultivating the land, coaxing life from the desert with their intricate irrigation systems. Their agricultural prowess ensured a steady supply of these essential crops, forming the foundation of a cuisine that was as diverse as it was nourishing. Onions, garlic and leeks, these pungent bulbs, added depth and complexity to their dishes. Lettuce, cucumbers and radishes, these refreshing vegetables provided a welcome respite from the desert heat. Dates, figs and pomegranates, these sweet treats offered a burst of natural sugar and were enjoyed fresh or dried. The Nile Valley, with its fertile soil and predictable floods, provided the ancient Egyptians with a rich tapestry of flavours. They embraced the land's offerings, incorporating a variety of vegetables and fruits into their diet, creating a cuisine that was both flavourful and nutritious. Fish, abundant in the Nile, was a staple protein source, particularly for those living near the river. Fish was often dried, salted or smoked, preserving it for leaner times. Fowls such as ducks, geese and pigeons were also a part of their diet. Meat from cattle, sheep and goats was a more luxurious food, reserved for special occasions or the elite. The ancient Egyptians were skilled hunters and fishermen, supplementing their plant-based diet with protein from the Nile and the surrounding land. From the humble fisherman to the wealthy landowner, protein sources varied, reflecting the social hierarchy of the time. Imagine the aroma of roasted meat filling the air during a feast, a symbol of wealth and prosperity. While the common people of Egypt relied on the Nile's bounty for their sustenance, the pharaohs and the elite enjoyed a lavish and diverse diet. For the pharaohs, food was not merely fuel. It was a symbol of their status, power, and divine right to rule. Spices like cumin, coriander and saffron imported from distant lands infused their dishes with exotic aromas and tastes. Honey, a symbol of wealth and luxury, was used liberally to sweeten their food and drinks. The pharaohs dined on delicacies that were beyond the reach of ordinary Egyptians. Their tables boasted roasted gazelle, wild duck, and even ostrich, hunted in the distant deserts and brought back to the palace as a testament to their power. Wine, a symbol of celebration and abundance, flowed freely at these lavish banquets. Sweets, made with honey, dates and figs, provided a sweet ending to their extravagant meals. The pharaohs' meals were a far cry from the simple fare of their subjects. Their diets were a reflection of their wealth, power and access to resources that were beyond the reach of ordinary Egyptians. The pharaoh, considered a living god, had access to the most exclusive and luxurious foods, a diet designed to reflect his divine status. His meals were prepared by a dedicated team of cooks who adhered to strict rituals and guidelines to ensure their purity and quality. While the pharaohs and the elite indulged in lavish feasts, the lives of ordinary Egyptians revolved around a more modest but no less flavorful culinary tradition. Imagine bustling marketplaces, filled with the sights, sounds and smells of daily life, where farmers brought their produce, fishermen their catch, and bakers their freshly baked bread. The common people, while not privy to the exotic ingredients that graced the pharaoh's tables, possessed a deep understanding of how to transform simple, locally sourced ingredients into satisfying and flavorful meals. They understood the art of preserving food, drying fish and meats in the scorching desert sun, pickling vegetables in vinegar and salt, ensuring that nothing went to waste. Their meals were a celebration of the Nile's bounty, a testament to their resilience and their ability to adapt to the challenges of their environment. The ancient Egyptians, masters of agriculture, cultivated a dazzling array of fruits that thrived in the fertile Nile Valley. Dates, with their sticky sweetness and chewy texture, were a staple food, a source of natural sugar and energy. Dates were enjoyed fresh, dried, used to sweeten cakes and breads, or even fermented into a mildly alcoholic beverage. Figs, plump and bursting with juicy sweetness, were another beloved fruit. Figs were eaten fresh, dried into chewy treats, or used to make jams and preserves. Pomegranates, with their jewel-toned seeds and tart, refreshing flavour, were highly prized. Pomegranates were enjoyed fresh, their juice used to make refreshing drinks, or their seeds sprinkled over salads and desserts for a touch of colour and tang. Grapes, cultivated in vineyards that stretched along the Nile Delta, were a symbol of abundance and celebration. Grapes were enjoyed fresh, dried into raisins, or most famously fermented into wine, a beverage enjoyed by both the living and the dead. Watermelons, with their juicy, refreshing flesh, provided a welcome respite from the desert heat. Watermelons were enjoyed fresh, their juice quenching thirst and providing much-needed hydration under the scorching sun. These fruits, gifts of the fertile Nile Valley, were more than just food to the ancient Egyptians. They were symbols of life, abundance, and the generosity of the gods. They were woven into the fabric of their daily lives, their flavors enjoyed by pharaohs and peasants alike. Fishermen skilled in the art of netting and trapping would cast their nets into the Nile's waters, hauling in a variety of fish from small perch to large Nile perch, their silver scales glinting in the sun. Fish, a valuable source of protein, was prepared in a variety of ways. It was grilled over open fires, baked in clay ovens, dried in the sun, or salted and preserved for leaner times. While fish was a staple for many, meat was a more luxurious food, reserved for special occasions or for those who could afford it. Cattle, sheep and goats, domesticated animals that grazed on the fertile land along the Nile, provided a source of meat, milk and hides. Hunting, while not as prevalent as fishing or animal husbandry, also played a role in providing meat for the Egyptian table. Honey, often referred to as liquid gold by the ancient Egyptians, was far more than just a sweetener. It was a symbol of purity, a gift from the gods and a prized ingredient in their culinary repertoire. Honey was used to sweeten cakes, pastries and desserts, adding a touch of luxury to their otherwise simple fare. But honey's role in ancient Egyptian cuisine extended far beyond sweetening. It was used as a glaze for roasted meats, its sweetness caramelizing over the fire, creating a rich, flavorful crust. Honey was also used as a preservative, its antibacterial properties extending the shelf life of fruits, vegetables, and even meats. The ancient Egyptians, renowned for their trade networks that spanned the ancient world, had access to a treasure trove of spices, each one adding its unique flavor and aroma to their cuisine. Imagine caravans laden with exotic spices arriving from distant lands, their arrival a cause for celebration in the bustling marketplaces of ancient Egypt. Cumin, with its warm, earthy flavor, was a staple spice used generously in stews, soups and roasted meats. Imagine the comforting aroma of cumin seeds toasted in a clay pot, their essential oils released, filling the air with their warm, inviting scent. Coriander, with its citrusy, slightly sweet flavor, was another favorite, used to add a refreshing note to dishes. Imagine the delicate green leaves of the coriander plant, chopped finely and sprinkled over salads, stews and even desserts. Their fresh, vibrant flavor, a welcome contrast to the richness of many Egyptian dishes. Fennel, with its licorice-like flavor, was used to add a subtle aniseed note to dishes, particularly those featuring fish or seafood. Imagine the delicate fronds of the fennel bulb, used to infuse broths and stews with their unique flavor, adding a layer of complexity to the overall taste. The ancient Egyptians were remarkably innovative in their culinary practices. They developed techniques for preserving food and brewing beverages. Fermentation was well understood by the ancient Egyptians. They used it to create beer, a staple drink. Bread making involved sourdough starter, giving bread its tangy flavour. They also created sweets using honey, dates, figs and nuts. These innovations left an indelible mark on the world of food and drink. Our journey through the kitchens and fields of ancient Egypt draws to a close, leaving us with a profound appreciation for a civilization that understood the art of sustenance and celebration. We've explored the bounty of the Nile, from its humble grains to its succulent fruits, witnessing how these simple ingredients were transformed into meals that nourished both body and soul. Imagine the echoes of laughter and conversation around a fire as families gathered to share their daily bread, the aroma of spices mingling with the smoke, creating a sensory experience that transcended time. Food wasn't merely fuel for the ancient Egyptians. It was a thread that wove together the fabric of their society, connecting them to the land, their gods, and each other. We've delved into the grand feasts of the pharaohs, where exotic delicacies and imported spices were a testament to their power and influence. Yet, even amidst such opulence, the essence of Egyptian cuisine remained rooted in the land's bounty, a reminder that even the most powerful rulers were ultimately dependent on the Nile's generosity. From the humblest farmer to the mighty pharaoh, food played a pivotal role in shaping the lives, beliefs, and traditions of this remarkable civilization. Their culinary legacy, much like their towering pyramids, stands as a testament to their ingenuity, resourcefulness, and deep-rooted connection to the natural world. As we bid farewell to the sights, smells, and tastes of ancient Egypt, let us carry with us a newfound appreciation for the simple yet profound act of sharing a meal. Their story reminds us that food is more than just sustenance. It's a celebration of life, a bridge across cultures and generations, and a powerful reminder of our shared humanity. The echoes of their culinary traditions can still be heard in the cuisines of modern Egypt and beyond, a testament to the enduring legacy of a civilization that understood the true meaning of a life well lived, one shared with loved ones, around a table laden with the fruits of the earth. Their story is a reminder that even as time marches on, the fundamental human need for nourishment and connection remains unchanged. So the next time you break bread with loved ones, take a moment to appreciate the legacy of the ancient Egyptians, whose culinary innovations continue to enrich our lives today. Their story, etched in stone and whispered by the desert winds, reminds us that even the grandest civilizations are built upon the simple foundation of a shared meal.